Hey, what's already? Welcome back to News Dose, and to open up the week, we already have two different events to talk about. Now, one I don't think is all that surprising, but, we do have more confirmation for the September Nintendo Direct, and this could be the one that everybody has actually been asking for since the Nintendo Switch 2 first released. However, this other event, on the other hand, this could debut some very exciting games that we haven't yet seen, including a highly anticipated Xbox-published game. So stick around and we're going to get into both of those, plus plenty more. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go get right into things, though, starting off with the Rayman series. It seems like Ubisoft just kind of realized that they, do have a Rayman Twitter account because they just tweeted for the first time since 2021, and this was actually for a very good reason. It's not only the 30th anniversary for Rayman, which is kind of crazy to think about, but more so, it's because they are working on a brand new entry. Ubisoft first confirmed that last year, and they reconfirmed that today via a video that they posted online. They said, quote unquote, "As we said in the past, a very talented team at Ubisoft Montpellier and Ubisoft Milan are currently working together on the future of Rayman. Don't expect news from us too soon, but rest assured that Rayman is in good hands." And hopefully so. The teams combined have worked on some absolutely fantastic games in the past, including Rayman Legends, Rayman Origins, and even Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Now, there have been rumors about a Rayman remake. Allegedly, that was the idea that they were exploring last year, though, if true, that still begs the question of which entry. Will it be the original 2D Rayman, or could it be Rayman 2, which is a fan favorite 3D platformer? Now, personally, I would actually prefer Rayman 2 in this case, just because it's been such a long time since we've gotten a 3D Rayman game. But either which way, both sounds absolutely incredible to me. The fact that we are getting a new Rayman game at all, that's pretty good news. Now, we also got some reviews for the long-awaited Sony-published PS5 console exclusive Lost Suicide. And when I say long-awaited, I'm talking about nearly 10 years. I believe it was first revealed way back in 2016, and it immediately was lauded as one of the most promising Chinese-developed games ever. Visually, it looks really good. It's clearly inspired by the likes of Final Fantasy 15, but after all of those years, unfortunately, it seems to have missed the mark. It currently has a 61 overall score on Metacritic with a total of 14 reviews. Now, that's not really a lot of reviews, but even if you look at the user score, it has a 5.9, and then over on Steam, it has a 57% approval rate. So really, no matter how you slice it, Lost Suicide is not being received well by fans nor critics. So now the question really is, why? And in this case, it sounds like you can kind of take your pick. It's being described as generic, the story isn't great, the writing is bad, the voice acting is weak, the characters are meh, and it's just an overall mediocre experience, which is very unfortunate to hear. I was even high on this game in years past, but unfortunately, it, for whatever reason, just didn't land the way that it was supposed to. Now, just to kind of get the bad news out of the way before we talk about the more exciting stuff, we're also unfortunately hearing that Star Wars Outlaws on the Nintendo Switch 2 isn't running great. It was at PAX West, and GVG got the chance to play it, but he noted that they weren't allowed to record any type of gameplay, which was the only game at PAX West that they weren't allowed to record footage for. So, kind of similar to the Elden Ring situation at Gamescom, that's a huge red flag, because it basically tells us that they're probably hiding something that they don't want consumers to see. Now, just to be a little bit optimistic, it could also mean that it was an old build of the game that they just don't want to go public because it doesn't represent the final product. That is possible. My only problem with that, though, is that if that is true, then, just don't showcase it at a popular event, because people are going to talk about these games one way or the other. Either which way, though, GVG said that its frame rate was all over the place, and to make matters worse is that it didn't even play one of the open world sections, which could actually be even worse in theory. So my recommendation here is that if you are interested in Star Wars Outlaws for the Switch 2, then I'd say don't pre-order it. At least wait for reviews and a deeper analysis to see how it plays out. Okay, so let's go and get into the more exciting stuff, and since we're on the topic of Nintendo, let's start with them and the upcoming Nintendo Direct. I mean, this has been in a rumor mill for a couple weeks now. Previously, Switchforce and the Video Game Chronicles said that they had heard that there will be a Direct mid-September, with Switchforce claiming a possible September 12th date. So there was already a good amount of evidence as is. But now we can actually add even more credibility to that rumor because Nate the Hate, which has definitely earned a good reputation, also just claimed that a Nintendo Direct will in fact air this September. You can see his tweet here, which reads, "Yes, there's a Nintendo Direct in September. When? The second week of the month, in the latter half on or around September 11th or the 12th. So this is actually the second time that we've heard about the 11th or the 12th, which is actually a very important date in this case because Mario's anniversary falls right after that, being on the 13th. The only problem for Nintendo, though, is that the 13th is on a Saturday. So they'll have to plan some kind of celebration a day or two ahead of time, which could, in this case, be in the form of a Nintendo Direct, which I think does make a lot of sense given the circumstances. Not only do they have several big Switch 2 games that needs a release date, such as Metroid Prime 4, there's Final Fantasy VII Remake, Elden Ring, and even Splatoon Raiders, but this could also be a great way for them to celebrate their biggest mascot of all time, of course, being Mario. Now, how they'll do that, that'll be interesting to see. You know, could they announce a brand new Mario game? Could they do another Switch Online celebration like they did with Mario 99? Or could they announce some kind of new Mario-themed merchandise? Who knows? We could get a combination of all of the three, including even a Mario spinoff. I mean, we have heard some rumors about a Camelot game being far along in development, which, you know, knowing them, it could be another Mario sports game, possibly even Mario Sluggers. I think that would be a really cool surprise for fans. But yeah, as expected, a Nintendo Direct will happen sometime in the month of September, most likely being the week of the 12th. I mean, the thing is that Nintendo literally holds a big Direct in September pretty much every single year, except for last year. Now, last year was kind of a strange year for them, so, you know, I think we should kind of remember that for next year when we start hearing rumors in June and in July and in August about some kind of new Direct, which only leaves fans disappointed. So, you know, moving forward, let's just kind of keep in mind that September is the most likely month for their big Nintendo Direct. Okay, now we have one more event to talk about, and the reason I wanted to headline it today is because I think this one is more surprising. And there's less people that actually knows about it. Of course, you know, everybody and their mother right now is covering the Nintendo Direct, and rightfully so. But not a lot of people are covering the Kojima production 10th anniversary event, which was just announced for September 23rd. And I think this could potentially be a lot more exciting than people might realize. First off, they teased some new reveals, which I'm going to come back to that in a moment. But of course, they just released Death Stranding 2, which is an easy Game of the Year contender. I mean, Kojima is a longtime legend. We all know his name. But the reason I want to point that out is because I think that game specifically continues to prove why so many people view Hideo Kojima as one of the most brilliant minds in all of gaming, and why we should still be excited about what he does next. He has a very unique approach to his games, which ironically, he was criticized for that over the weekend. He recently revealed that he only plays like one game a year. His inspiration comes from elsewhere. But I don't really see how that's a problem. I mean, if anything else, I think that's kind of helped him be himself and not just to copy what everybody else is doing in the game industry. And that's something that we've talked a lot about on this channel. If you look at the state of modern AAA games, one big problem that they currently have is originality. We're at a point when there's less creative risk than ever before, partly because of budgets are just outrageous right now. And that means for us gamers that we get that feeling of been there, done that. Nobody really seems to have an original thought anymore, which is all the more reason that I think Kojima's approach is perfectly fine. In fact, in today's industry, I think it's kind of what we need. Now, whether you like his games or not, which are, of course, filled with crazy ideas, that's up to each individual. But my point is that when you play one of his games, you at the very least get to go in with the expectation that it's going to be an original experience, which is something that we're not seeing from a lot of modern AAA games. And the good news here is that they are teasing a quote-unquote glimpse into future projects. Now, to be completely fair, they are working on a Death Stranding live-action film that could be revealed here, so it might not only be game-related, but we do know about 2 already confirmed games. One is Fizzent, which is likely far from release. I'm not expecting that to be here, but OD, on the other hand, that's a completely different story. OD was first revealed back in, I believe it was 2022, as a part of the Xbox Showcase. And that was actually after a long stint of rumors. We had already known about OD for a long time, even before its official reveal. In fact, allegedly, its gameplay even leaked behind the scenes. So we're talking about a game that's been in development for probably about 4 years, bare minimum. So I imagine a reveal is inbound sometime soon, and this could potentially be the place where they officially reveal some gameplay. Now, I mean, there's not a guarantee in that. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But I think for anybody who liked PT, the canceled Silent Hill project by Kojima, then I think this game is at the very least worth paying attention to. There are already several nods towards PT in some of its previous trailers, so I'm actually very excited to see what he's up to with this one. Let me know, though. What do you think they're teasing for the 23rd? Do you think that it'll be OD, or do you think it's going to be something else? Anyways, though, that's going to be for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.